Deputy Director of Outreach at the National Women's Law Center, and I'd like to thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Social Security and Communities of Color. We have just a few technical notes before we begin today's presentation. First, all lines will be on mute during today's webinar. We will be taking questions after our experts are finished with the presentation, but you can submit questions throughout the webinar by entering it into the question function in your webinar toolbar and hitting send. Please also note that we will be recording today's webinar, and you will receive a link to the recording of the presentation as well as to the PowerPoint slides within the next few days. So before we start the presentations, we would like to get a better idea of who is with us on today's webinar. So very shortly, you will see some poll questions popping up on your screen. So the first one, which should be coming up right now, is why are you primarily interested in this webinar? And you'll see that there are a few options. Whether it's you yourself are thinking about retirement, your friends or family are thinking about retirement, your clients are, or maybe there's another reason that brought you to this webinar today. So please just take a few more seconds to go ahead and select the answer that is closest to what brought you here. And I'm just going to give it a few more minutes, a few more seconds for people to respond. Okay, so it looks like about 81% of people have responded at this point. So I'm going to close this poll. And it looks like 44% of people are thinking about their own retirement. 10% is friends and family are thinking about retirement. 16% clients are, and 29% are here for another reason today. And their second question is, at what age are you planning to take your Social Security benefits? So you should see that question on your screen at this point. So the ages are 62, 63 to 65, 66, 67 to 70, or you're not sure about what age you might be taking retirement. So again, I'll just give it a little bit more time for people to respond. Okay, it looks like most folks have responded at this point, so I'm going to close the poll. Looks like 7% are planning to take Social Security at age 62, 19% 63 to 65, 15% at age 66, 26% at age 67 to 70, and 33% are not sure. And so at this point, I would like to turn the floor over to Joan Entmacher from the National Women's Law Center. Joan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Amanda, and welcome everyone to today's webinar, Social Security and Communities of Color. We know that retirement security is a major concern for many people, and that's particularly true for women and men of color, and women generally, because they generally have lower earnings and less ability to save during their working life. The great experts that we've lined up for today's webinar will explain how you can make the most of the Social Security you've earned to increase your long-term retirement security. The first speaker will be Ben Veghte, who is the Vice President for Policy at the National Academy of Social Insurance, a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization made up of the nation's leading experts on Social Security, Medicare, and other social insurance programs that are vital to the economic security of workers and their families. As Ben will explain, this webinar is part of a larger public education project sponsored by the National Academy of Social Insurance with support from the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation and the Retirement Research Foundation, and the National Women's Law Center, National Council of La Raza, and National Urban League are all part of that initiative. Stephanie Román is the policy analyst for the Economic Policy Project at the National Council of La Raza. The National Council of La Raza is the largest national Hispanic civil rights and advocacy organization in the United States. It works to improve opportunities for Hispanic Americans through research, policy analysis, and state and national advocacy efforts, as well as in programs for communities nationwide. Kyle Williams is the Legislative Director for Financial Policy at the National Urban League. The National Urban League is a historic civil rights organization founded over 100 years ago. It promotes economic empowerment in historically underserved communities through the development of programs, public policy research, and advocacy. and I'm Joan Entmacher, Vice President for Family Economic Security at the National Women's Law Center. Just a reminder for anyone who joined late, you can send us questions at any time during the presentation by using the question function on your toolbar. We'll answer them at the end of all of the presentations, and we will be sending around a link both to the slides and the recording a couple of days after this webinar. So with that, take it away, Ben.
Well, thank you, Amanda, and thank you, Joan. And thank all of you for joining us. And I want to thank the National Women's Law Center, the National Council of the Raza, and the National Urban League for co-hosting this webinar, part of a series. We've been working with these organizations for 2 years on a public education initiative with support from the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation and the Retirement Research Foundation. Our goal is to help workers find out about the financial advantages of delaying Social Security if you can. Our target audience is middle and lower income workers approaching retirement, people in their 50s and early 60s. We also want to reach people whom workers trust for advice, such as family members, friends, coworkers, community groups, and professional advisors. Here you can see a screenshot in a moment of a toolkit of resources we've created on Social Security, and we are looking for ways to share these materials with people through webinars like this. Please feel free to view our materials at www.nasi.org, nasi.org/when-to-take-social-security, as well as the resources from our partner organizations on their websites. Your full retirement age, or FRA, is the age at which you are eligible for full, unreduced retirement benefits. To calculate benefits, Social Security uses the year you were born. The FRA is 66 for people born in 1943 through 1954. In other words, people currently aged 56 to 71. It will then gradually rise to age 67 for people born in 1960 and later, those who are now 55 and younger. So when can I take Social Security? You can claim Social Security anytime between ages 62 and 70. Monthly benefits are reduced if taken before your full retirement age, which is 66 for people retiring today. And benefits are increased for each month you wait between ages 66 and 70. Next slide. So how much higher are benefits if you wait? If your benefit at full retirement age is $1,000 a month, just to take an example, taking it early at 62 would reduce it to $750, or 25% less for the rest of your life. Delaying it past your full retirement age will increase it by 8% per year for each year you delay claiming benefits, or for a total of 32% if you wait until age 70. The reward for waiting until 70 is a benefit that is approximately 76% higher than what you would have had at age 70 if you had started claiming benefits at 62. So it pays to wait if you can. Not everyone can wait, however. If you need Social Security early to make ends meet, take it because you've earned it. But if you can wait even a year or two, it will be higher for the rest of your life. So how does working affect my benefits? If you are younger than your full retirement age and you earn over a certain limit, which is $15,720 this year, the Social Security Administration will withhold some of your benefits. It withholds $1 for each $2 you earn over that threshold amount. It is important to note that any benefits withheld while you continue to work are not lost. Once you reach your full retirement age, your monthly benefit will be increased permanently to account for the months in which benefits were withheld. After your full retirement age, Social Security does not withhold benefits because of work. You can delay claiming, or if you have already started claiming, you can ask Social Security to suspend your benefits so that you will get a higher benefit later. Moreover, your earnings after 62 can further increase your benefit later. Your benefit is calculated based on your top 35 earnings years. So if you earn money after age 62 that's higher than in one of your other top 35 earnings years, this increases your benefits for the rest of your life. So if you need benefits, take them. You may also be eligible for disability insurance benefits if you are unable to work due to a disability. You can visit the Social Security Administration's website for more information on that. So, next slide. Why wait to take benefits? Why forego Social Security now to get more later? Because the longer you live, the more important Social Security is likely to become. Social Security is guaranteed to last as long as you live. Other income may not. Social Security automatically keeps up with inflation. Most other retirement income does not. Other income often declines at older ages. You're less likely to have earnings from work, for example, at older ages, and retirement savings amounts are typically smaller at older ages as well. So Social Security benefits become even more critical later in life. Next slide. So Social Security is particularly valuable to low-income workers. Social Security plays an important role in keeping older Americans out of poverty. The Social Security system is progressive in that lower wage workers receive a higher percentage benefit than higher wage earners do. The system returns a greater percentage of pre-retirement earnings to a lower wage worker than to a higher wage worker. Overall, Social Security keeps 21.4 million Americans out of poverty, including nearly 14.5 million seniors and 1.1 million children. Most 65-year-olds are expected to live past age 80. Next slide. On average, at 65 today, women can expect to reach age 86, and men can expect to reach age 84. About 1 out of every 4 65-year-olds today will live past age 90, and 1 out of every 10 will live past age 95. Now, Stephanie and Kyle will touch in more depth on life expectancy at age 65 for the Latino and African American communities. But there's an underlying trend towards greater life expectancy for most groups at age 65, although this does differ by gender and community. Social Security becomes more important at older ages. Social Security Administration data show that Social Security becomes more important as seniors grow older. In their late 60s, about half or 2 out of 4 seniors get 50% or more of their income from Social Security. But by age 80, about 3 out of 4 get most of their income from Social Security. So foregoing Social Security now means getting more when you're older. Couples have 2 lives to plan for, and your decision about when to take benefits can impact your spouse's survival benefit levels. If you are the higher earner in a couple, waiting to take Social Security benefits means a higher benefit for your spouse if she or he outlives you. Of partners aged 65 in 2013, more than half, or 57%, are expected to have one spouse live beyond age 90. So when you're making these decisions about when to claim benefits, you should also take into consideration your spouse's life expectancy. Is there a risk in waiting to take Social Security? Will it still be there if I wait? Yes, it will still be there for you if you wait. In fact, Social Security is stronger than many people think. While lawmakers have not yet scheduled enough funds to pay all future benefits, they have done most of the job. Social Security is fully financed for the next 15 to 20 years and is about 3/4 of the way to full financing after that. Lawmakers have many options to fix the shortfall. Recent surveys find that large majorities of Americans say they value Social Security and they want to preserve it, and are willing to pay more if needed to keep the program strong. NASI has done public opinion studies to gauge support for the program. Our most recent study asks U.S. adults whether or not they agree that it is critical to preserve Social Security for future generations, even if it means increasing working Americans' contributions to Social Security taxes. Fully 77% of Americans agreed. This is true across generations, income, and political parties. Majorities of Republicans, Democrats, and Independents agree. The same survey found widespread agreement on 2 ways to fix Social Security's funding gap. First, to gradually phase out the cap so that high earners and their employers pay throughout the year like others do. And second, to gradually increase the contribution rate that workers and employers each pay from the current 6.2% to 7.2%. These changes would close the shortfall and pay for some improvements according to estimates from the Social Security actuaries. The benefit improvements that respondents supported included increasing Social Security's cost of living adjustment, or COLA, to reflect the higher inflation experienced by seniors, and raising Social Security's basic minimum benefit so that someone who paid into Social Security for 30 years can retire at age 62 or later and not be poor. To recap, if you need Social Security, take it. You've earned it. But if you can wait, your monthly benefit will be higher for the rest of your life. If you earn more than your spouse, delaying Social Security means a higher survivor's benefit for your spouse if she or he outlives you. Social Security will be there if you wait to take your retirement benefits. So here are some additional resources from the National Academy of Social Insurance, which you can refer to if you want to explore these issues in more depth. Now I would like to turn the presentation over to Stephanie Ramon from the National Council of La Raza.
Thank you, Ben. Well, certainly NCLR is very happy to be able to join this, and we thank National Women's Law Center, NAFI, and the National Urban League for co-hosting this important webinar. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started on the importance of Social Security to Latinos. Today I'll be covering 4 major topics: the importance of Social Security to Latinos, similarities and differences in our communities, so where Latinos differ, the cash economy, and immigrant eligibility for Social Security. Next slide, please. Great. So just to begin and setting the stage, this slide shows Latino demographic growth. Currently, the U.S. Latino population numbers 54 million, and by 2060, Latinos are estimated to make up 31% of the U.S. population. So as you can see, Latinos are becoming a much larger part of the U.S. population, and this definitely has an impact on Social Security and vice versa. Next. So one of the hugely important aspects of Social Security to Latinos is its anti-poverty effects. These anti-poverty effects are critical to older Latinos, especially women. Currently, nearly 1 in 5 Latinas, 65 and older, are living in poverty, and without Social Security, this number would increase to about half of all Latinas in this age group. And this is based on an IWPR study. Also, next slide, please. Great, and we can further see the poverty reducing effects and the sort of reliance of Latinos on Social Security in the next slide. Of those 65 and older, sorry, can we go back to that one? Yes. Of those 65 and older, Social Security is the sole source of income for 43% of Latinos. And when you break that down into 90% of their source of income, that number goes up to over half of Latinos rely on Social Security for over 90%. And again, 43 rely on Social Security for 100% of their income. So Social Security is vastly important to older Latinos. Next slide, please. Now on to some of the similarities and differences in our communities. Next slide, please. Latinos have lower median earnings than other groups, with Latina women having the lowest median annual earnings out of all racial ethnic groups. This is problematic for Latinos since Social Security benefits are based on earnings. So you can see here, the graph on the right shows that in 2013, among Hispanics receiving Social Security, 37% of elderly married couples and 62% of elderly unmarried Hispanic couples relied on Social Security for 90% or more of their income. The pie chart on the right shows that in 2013, the average annual Social Security income received by Hispanic men 65 and older was $14,148, and for Hispanic women, $10,931. Again, this is the average annual income received by senior Hispanic men and women. So when we're looking at the reliance of the number of Latinos who depend on Social Security for 100% of their income, we're looking at incomes that are not very high. Next slide, please. Latinos are also less likely than other workers to benefit from an employer-sponsored retirement plan. And nationally, 2/3 of Hispanics are not covered by an employer-sponsored retirement plan. Therefore, many Latinos rely exclusively on Social Security for their retirement income, as we've seen. The graphic here shows California data from one of our recent NCLR reports on retirement for Latinos in California. So this isn't the national picture, but it is quite striking. Next slide, please. Latinos also have a longer life expectancy compared to other groups. With longer life expectancies than the general population, elderly Latinos, especially women, will live more years into retirement and rely on Social Security. Again, currently, nearly 1 in 5 elderly Latinas lives in poverty, and Hispanic women age 65 in 2012 can expect to live to age 89 compared to age 85 for all women, and Hispanic men who are age 65 or were age 65 in 2012 can expect to live to age 85 compared to age 82 for all men. And just going back to this, it's really important for Latinos to have access to more options to prepare for retirement that work together in conjunction with Social Security in order to diversify retirement savings. Okay, on to the cash economy. Next slide, please. So we know that when people get paid in cash, they lose out on retirement benefits. And this is, as we know, these benefits are incredibly critical for older Latinas and Latinos. So in the long term, tax-free cash costs you your Social Security benefits. And we know that some employers will pressure people to be paid in cash, but this is illegal, and that's another important point to hit on. And the informal cash economy involves many different types of work, like nannies, domestic workers, construction workers. Much of it is part-time, and workers get paid in cash. Workers in the informal sector, and this is a sector with a high concentration of Latinas and Latinos, may encounter specific barriers in accessing and participating in Social Security. Workers who participate in the cash economy are often not reported or are misclassified as independent contractors by their employers. And a recent report shows that in California, 1 out of 6 jobs in the construction industry was part of the underground economy. And particularly vulnerable to this informal economy are immigrants who make up 43% of the California construction labor force. And this is the construction labor force is just one example. So again, there are costs to being paid in cash, because when you retire and you haven't paid into the system, your benefits are much decreased, even if you're a hardworking member of society. If you never paid into the Social Security system, you won't be able to get anything back because you won't have a work record. And again, it's important to pay into the Social Security system so that later down the line you can have access to it. And so it's important to note that in the long term, tax-free cash costs you these critical retirement benefits, Social Security benefits. And there are some issues remaining with the informal economy. There's difficulty reporting wages, and there's a lot of uncertainty or limited awareness about Social Security. So it's important to increase worker understanding of the importance of Social Security and retirement security, especially for workers in the informal labor market. Next slide, please. Immigrant eligibility. Does a person, oh, sorry, can we go back? Does a person have to be a U.S. citizen to get Social Security benefits? The answer is no. An individual can get Social Security retirement benefits so long as he or she is lawfully present and authorized to work in the United States. The person need not become a U.S. citizen, and there's a whole category of individuals considered lawfully present who could be authorized to work in the U.S., and this includes permanent residents, refugees, lawful non-immigrants like students. The list goes on. And we know that for Social Security payroll taxes to be withheld from wages, a worker must provide a Social Security number to his or her employer. So again, an immigrant can receive Social Security. He or she must provide a Social Security number to their employer. And a non-citizen will still need to work, need to have 10 years of work experience to be eligible for Social Security. Next slide, please. Immigrants help improve the solvency of Social Security, and they are a net plus to the Social Security Trust Fund. These are figures from the Social Security Administration. Every increase of 100,000 immigrants, both documented and undocumented, improves the Social Security Trust Fund by 0.07% of taxable payroll. And between 120 and 240 billion, or 5% to 11% of the trust fund, the Social Security Trust Fund, has come from payments from undocumented workers. Next slide, please. So now moving on to undocumented workers and Social Security. Are undocumented workers allowed to receive Social Security benefits? The answer is no. Undocumented workers are not allowed to use benefits of any kind from Social Security as long as they remain undocumented. Undocumented workers pay Social Security taxes when they or their employers make the required tax contributions on their behalf. Undocumented workers, however, are able to make Social Security payments when they use their individual taxpayer identification number, or ITIN, assigned to them from the IRS for this exact purpose, to allow non-citizens lacking Social Security numbers to make legally required tax payments due on U.S. sources of income. So if a documented worker gets U.S. citizenship, can they receive Social Security benefits? And undocumented workers who change status may qualify for benefits under certain circumstances. Historically, if a person who was once undocumented was able to gain legal status, this person has the option of trying to unscramble their work records to claim credit for any contributions made before they gain status. Again, if and when they are granted legal status, their work quarters of coverage from payments made on work that they have actually performed are counted for purposes of determining their eligibility and the amount they can claim upon retirement disability. Comprehensive immigration reform would allow more people to legally access the formal economy, and statistics data show that most immigrants in the informal economy want to enter the formal economy. And this would also add millions more taxpayers into the system. And this would also systematize a way for people to be able to access their work history and their credits, build these work histories in order to be able to one day be eligible for Social Security. In conclusion, Latinos contribute to and also benefit from Social Security. While it is clear that Social Security is critical for Latinos, it is also important to note that Latinos are critical to the future of Social Security. Population growth among Latinos, young new Americans who will contribute to Social Security, immigrant contributions to the Social Security Trust Fund, longer life expectancies, all help contribute positively to the financial health of Social Security and ultimately help sustain the long-term financial viability of Social Security. So NCLR, we can go to the next slide, please. NCLR has worked on the issue of Latinos and Social Security for many years, and we encourage you to visit our website and take a look at our resources in both English and Spanish. It's really critical to our community to continue informing Latinos about the Social Security program. And with that, I'd like to pass it off to Kyle from the National Urban League.
Excellent. Thank you, Stephanie. I'm Kyle Williams, Legislative Director for Financial and Housing Policy at the National Urban League Washington Bureau. the National Urban League is a historic civil rights organization focused on economic empowerment. I'd like to thank the National Women's Law Center, NACI, and the National Council of Raza for putting this together. Next slide, please. Today we'll discuss the importance of the Social Security Retirement Program to African Americans, also the importance of the Disability Insurance Program, and the It Pays to Wait strategy. Next slide, please. As people's lifestyles get better and we benefit from new medical advances, people are living longer and longer lives. As a result, the average life expectancy has increased 11 years since 1950, and it is estimated that 10,000 people will turn 65 years old every day between 2010 and 2029. According to the president of AARP, your chief risk today comes not from dying too soon, but from living too long and running out of money. This rings true for everyone, but for African Americans in particular. Next slide, please. Unfortunately, African Americans generally earn lower incomes and acquire lower wealth over their lifetimes in contrast to other racial subgroups. 80% of African American households do not have enough savings to last their expected lives. This is why Social Security is so important. Next slide, please. Social Security is a federal insurance program that provides a lifetime annuity protected from market fluctuations and depleted savings. So what does that mean? That means that beneficiaries receive a fixed monthly amount, a fixed benefit each month that they can safely rely on. It's not like a 401k, which is subject to the daily fluctuations in the market, so that if there was some type of stock market crash, you would lose it. You know that you have a relatively guaranteed monthly benefit that you receive throughout your life. As a result, the Social Security program is one of the most successful federal programs in existence. For example, 55% of unmarried African American seniors and 25% of married seniors rely on the program for more than 90% of their income. Next slide, please. The current poverty rate would be 53% if it were not for Social Security. The current poverty rate for senior citizens would be 53%. It is currently 18%. In 2013, the average benefit for African American men was nearly $15,000, and it was around $12,500 for African American women. So now, while the program is one of the most successful ones, clearly more needs to be done because it is difficult to live on $1,000 or so per month, given the fact of increasing rent, grocery costs, clothes, and especially if you want to live comfortably. So again, while it's a great program, more needs to be done to help strengthen and expand it. Next slide, please. Social Security is an entitlement program that beneficiaries should be proud of and feel empowered to defend. So again, that's why we're happy, the National Urban League is happy to work with the National Women's Law Center, NACI, and the National Council of Raza, who are all true champions in the fight to expand and to strengthen the Social Security program. It's something that we should all be excited to fight for and defend, again, because it's not something we should be shameful of. It's something we should be excited about, especially given the fact of the impact that it has for our communities. Next slide, please. So I just want to address concerns that people have with the existence of the Social Security program. First and foremost, the Social Security program is not likely to become insolvent in the near future. But let's be clear, when we hear talks of insolvency, it doesn't mean that the program will go bankrupt or that the program will no longer exist. It means that if the program were to go insolvent, which again is highly unlikely, it means that beneficiaries will receive a reduced benefit. So it's not that the program would be wiped out is that the beneficiaries would receive a smaller benefit than what they currently receive. The chances of this actually happening again are slim, but I just wanted to dispel the myth that the program will go bankrupt or that it will no longer exist in the future. Again, the Social Security program is one of the most successful federal programs that is in existence, and it is not going to be wiped out. Next slide, please. Social Security is more than just a federal insurance program for seniors. It also helps disabled children and those who were injured and disabled in the workplace. African American children rely on Social Security disability insurance more than other children. And actually, we rely on it disproportionately. Nearly 21% of all the children who receive Social Security disability insurance are African Americans. And African Americans are more likely to be disabled at work, and as a result, disproportionately rely on Social Security disability insurance. And a big part of the reason that is because we tend to work in low-wage, low-skilled jobs, and as a result, it's easier to get injured in those positions. Approximately 2.3 million African Americans received disability insurance benefits in 2013. So while African Americans make up around 13 to 14% of the population, we made up almost nearly a quarter of all the Social Security disability insurance beneficiaries in 2013. Next slide, please. For at least 50% of the African Americans who receive disability insurance, the benefits make up at least 75% of their income. And among the African Americans who receive it, almost 30% were in poverty. So just to continue on the theme of the importance of Social Security, when it comes to retirement, African Americans rely on it at a high level. Again, we rely on it on a high level. The same thing is true with the disability insurance. As a result, we have to make strides to make the program stronger and help to expand it. Next slide, please. And this just, again, continues on the theme of the importance of the program and that we should be proud and feel empowered that it exists. It's a program that is helping to lift millions of people out of poverty. Next slide, please. And again, this continues on the theme that the program will remain in existence if changes are made, which are unlikely. It would just be a slight reduction in benefits. There was actually something that recently happened in Congress where it looked like the program would become insolvent, the disability insurance program would become insolvent, but Congress stepped up to the plate and made sure that the beneficiaries received their full benefits. Next slide, please. We'll go into the it pays to wait strategy. Deciding when to retire is one of the most vexing decisions that seniors make. And that's because seniors have the option of choosing when to receive their Social Security benefits. You can begin to receive your Social Security benefits at age 62, or you can wait until age 70. If you decide to receive your benefits at age 62, your benefits will be less than they would if you receive them at age 63, 64, up to age 70. So based on an average scenario, a person at age 62 who decides to receive their Social Security benefits, their benefit may be around $750. However, if they decided to wait until age 70, the benefit would be around $1,320. Next slide, please. I hope I've made it clear how this operates. Again, you have the option of when to receive your Social Security benefits. The longer that you wait, the more your benefits will be in the future. This is a fruitful strategy for a number of people, a number of African Americans, but for African American women in particular who tend to outlive their spouses. The strategy is also beneficial for workers who are still currently working, have not reached their full retirement age, who are living relatively healthy lifestyles, those who want to use Social Security to help pay for their health care, those who want to retire more comfortably, and also for those who want to leave a higher spousal benefit for their spouses. Next slide, please. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me via email or telephone. Next up is Joan Entmacher from the National Women's Law Center.
Well, many thanks to all of our presenters. We have a number of questions that came in. It looks like people got the message that Social Security isn't going to disappear for younger people, but we do have a question that says, based on the current political climate, it seems like the younger generation will not receive the same level of benefits as the previous generation. So is there anyone who wants to speak to what someone who has that concern might be able to do?
Well, this is Ben. I would just say that, whether or not benefit levels will be the same for future generations as the current generation is a political question. It's a question of whether people, what Americans want to afford, what kind of social insurance programs they want to have. There certainly are, as I discussed in my presentation, NASI did a poll to see what Americans want in terms of their Social Security benefits, whether they're willing to pay more to maintain current benefits. And we found that across political parties and across income groups, that people were willing to pay more in contributions while they're working so that they can have economic security when they retire. So I think that there seems to be a disconnect between what the American people want in terms of Social Security benefits and what a lot of the discussion inside the Beltway in Washington leads people to believe.
Anyone else want to comment? Okay, another question is that someone's read that Social Security isn't giving a cost of living adjustment this year, and doesn't this conflict with the idea that Social Security keeps up with inflation?
Well, maybe I should take that one too, Joe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a great question. So when Social Security was created in 1935, there was only one cost of living index, the Consumer Price Index, and it was the only one available, and it was one that measured the cost of living for workers. And because it was the only cost of living index available, it was the one that the Social Security program adopted to base its cost of living adjustments on. Today we have different cost of living indices that are available, including one that's aimed more at the cost of living for seniors, for example, the CPIE. It still needs to be improved in terms of its measurement, which could be easily done, but it is aimed at measuring the cost of living of seniors. Now, in that cost of living index, the healthcare costs that seniors face, healthcare makes a bigger portion of seniors' budgets. That is better reflected in that index. Unfortunately, that index is not the one that's currently used to determine COLAs. So the current cost of living index is based on the cost of living that all Americans face, not seniors. And according to the data, the cost of living didn't go up on average for all Americans over the past year, and that's why there was no COLA this year. So Social Security is keeping up with inflation experienced by all Americans, according to the inflation data for the past year. But it could very well be that seniors have higher inflation because healthcare costs make up a bigger portion of their budgets. And so, some people in D.C., some policymakers are considering whether or not the cost of living, the COLA in Social Security should be based on this elderly index rather than on the current one.
Okay, thank you. I Another question. I currently receive disability from Social Security. I'm 55. Do I have to do anything to switch to Social Security when I reach a certain age, or will I be able to keep my disability income?
Perhaps that's another one for me.
Okay.
That's an automatic transition. When you hit retirement age, the full retirement age, you're automatically transferred from the disability program to the retirement program within Social Security, so you don't have to do anything.
Question specifically for the National Council of La Raza. Of the 54 million Latinos, do you know how many participate in the informal economy and may not be eligible for Social Security?
I actually don't have that number. I think, again, there are estimates. A lot of these estimates are statewide. I'm unclear as to whether there's a national estimate of those participating in the informal economy, but again, as you can imagine, because these are already folks who are participating in the informal economy, it is difficult to get those numbers and those breakdowns. So I can't say that I have that number.
Kyle, someone who posed, it's more in the nature of a comment, but it was that about 40% of the classmates in my age group are already deceased before we got to retirement age. So how can you say this is such an important program for African Americans?
So that's an excellent statement, question. We know that African Americans, men in particular, tend to live have a shorter lifespan than their counterparts. Currently, right now, the average lifespan for African American men is around 71. But also, those who reach age 60 are likely to live longer. So when people take the average lifespan into account, they're taking in babies who passed away, folks who died away in their teens, in their 20s, so on and so forth. They're not. They're taking that all into account. So, but those who live to be age 60 actually lived longer than that 71 average lifespan. They typically live to be around 79 or 80. So, so that just as background, but I agree with the commenter that we need to, that the strategy of it pays to wait may not be the best strategy for all African Americans. And again, that's because we tend to live shorter lives. However, it is a good strategy for those who meet certain criteria. And again, those are people who are still currently working, who have not reached full retirement age, who are living relatively healthy lifestyles. They know that when they go to the doctor, they have positive physicals. Those who want to leave more for their spouses when they pass away, and so they decide to wait to receive their Social Security benefits to ensure that it's a higher amount. And also those who want to live a little bit more comfortably in retirement. So it is a decision that folks have to make on their own. The National Urban League is not encouraging people to delay retirement. Our point of view is, hey, look, understand that you have this option. You have an option to delay receiving your benefits, and as a result, you will have a higher amount in the future.
Okay. Stephanie, another question about how is the quota system for immigration affecting Social Security?
So again, I don't have specific numbers, but I can speak to a general answer on that. Actually, as immigration has declined in the last couple of years, primarily due to the effects of the recession and the economic downturn, definitely as the number of immigrants has declined, so have those contributions to the Social Security Trust Fund. So the sort of both legal quotas and otherwise are linked to those Social Security contributions.
Okay. And we have a question. I'd like to wait and get a higher Social Security benefit, but I don't make a lot, and I'd like to get both. What can I do? Ben, do you want to take a shot at that? Someone who
Sure.
presumably is below full retirement age.
Right. Sure. So if you're younger than your full retirement age and you earn more than a specified earnings limit, which is $15,720 this year, the Social Security Administration will withhold some or all of your benefits. But those dollars are not lost. Once you reach your full retirement age, your monthly benefit amount will be increased to take account of any months that you did not receive benefits. For example, if you received benefits for 1 year from age 62 to 63 and then went back to work and had earnings high enough that all of your benefits were withheld until you reach age 66, your benefit at age 66 would be increased to reflect the 3 years you didn't receive benefits. So you can suspend your benefits temporarily and go, when you're working more than earning more than that amount, or you can, or you simply earn more than that amount and Social Security withholds benefits, and then you get higher benefits after you reach your full retirement age. Also, if you have savings, if you have private savings, you can, use those to bridge yourself over until you reach a later age, an older age, and then claim Social Security later. If you do that, you're essentially getting a 6 to 8% return on your Social Security benefit by delaying, because your benefit goes up by 6 to 8% per year for each year you wait. So usually you don't get that good of a return on private savings. So if you have some savings, it's better to draw down your savings a little bit between age 62 and whenever you retire, so that your Social Security benefit goes up permanently, rather than to claim Social Security in order to supplement your work income and then keep your savings for later.
Okay. We have a couple of questions in about spousal benefits. Let me say that the National Women's Law Center and National Academy of Social Insurance did a webinar that had a lot of information on that topic on October 29th, and when we send around the link to this webinar, we'll send around a link to that, but I will answer highlight a couple of those questions that can be answered quickly. One says, I've been in a relationship for 24 years. We are unmarried. How can I assure each of us will qualify for the other's benefits? The answer to that is that you have to be legally married in order to get benefits from one another as a spouse. Now, the Supreme Court has said that the Social Security Administration, will recognize marriage in any state by same-sex couples. So if the reason you didn't marry was because perhaps you're a same-sex couple and you couldn't get married, now that is legally permitted, and that will qualify you for benefits. If you're in one of the states that recognizes common law marriage, so that you may say you're not legally married, but in fact under the law of your state you are, then that would be recognized as a marriage. Otherwise, in order to get benefits as a spouse, you have to be legally married. Another question asks, I'm 5 years younger than my spouse. Should I claim the spousal benefit when he reaches 66? The answer is that means you will be 61 and you're not eligible to claim a spousal benefit unless you are at least 62. And when you do that, you will be considered to have claimed both your benefit as a spouse and your benefit as a worker, and both of those benefits will be permanently reduced. Since you're below 62 now, you no longer have the option of picking just getting the spousal benefit at 62. You'll have to decide when to claim your benefit, and waiting until your full retirement age or even beyond. Well, waiting until your full retirement age will give you the maximum spousal benefit, and if you can wait longer than that and your worker benefit is larger, that will give you the most lifetime protection. I think we have another question here. Let's see. My employer took money out of my paycheck for Social Security, but I didn't have a Social Security number then. What can I do to get credit for those contributions? Stephanie?
Sure. This is, again, this is the whole sort of, there's a quite complicated process for trying to figure out this sort of quote unscrambling of your contributions and your work history, and really there's no it's not like a one-step process for this. So I would for this I would just directly contact the Social Security Administration and go to them with that question, because again these rules are sort of can be a little bit convoluted and depend on a host of different factors. So for this, I would go directly to the source.
Okay, well, I'm sorry we're out of time, and appreciate all the questions that came in. We will try to send some of you answers to those questions. Again, for those of you who had questions about the spousal benefits, there is another webinar that you can look at. We also got questions about access to the slides. We will be sending those around, and I will turn this back over to Amanda.
Thanks, Joan, and thanks very much to all of our presenters today and to everyone for signing on for today's webinar. As Joan mentioned, you will all receive an email within the next couple days that will link you to the slides, the webinar recording, as well as the additional webinars that we've done in this series. Once the webinar is over, you will receive an invitation to participate in a survey, and so we appreciate you just giving us a few minutes of your feedback on how useful you found this presentation and any other thoughts that you might want to share with us. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out the webinar, and thank you all again very much.